procedure. What is it the courts require in order for me to put a tenant out? Let's note too that there is tenant's personal property. Am I allowed to attach that or not? Can I put a lien on it or not? The answer is no. Okay, Service Member Civil Relief Act. Most of you are probably not aware. Ms. Lauren, you may be, but many of us here are not in full-time property management, so you may not be aware that the Civil Service Act really changed dramatically this past year. Some major changes in what you can and cannot do to someone in the business and who's renting to someone in the armed forces. Rental insurance. What do you have to have? Stephanie touched on that a little bit earlier, and I think you did too, Frazier. Remedies for return check. Okay? Do you know what the state says you're allowed to do if the tenant pays you with a check that bounces? Are you confident? Method of eviction for violation of a lease. How about sexual harassment laws? Okay, just a quick test. By a show of hands, how many of you can very quickly describe to a tenant the 3 major categories of sexual harassment according to the DOJ? Can you do that? Whoops. Okay, forfeiture of real property. Do you realize that if an individual is arrested on your property that you are renting for the distribution of drugs or meth lab, if they get out, the law enforcement agency notifies you that they have arrested this individual, they make bail, get back out, they arrest him a second time on the property within 30 days, you've not started the eviction process. Do you realize that the DEA can confiscate your property? Your owner's property? Oh, by the way, they don't confiscate the mortgage note. We all know the contracts are requiring in writing. Okay? How about damages to the property? What has to be done? How about the process of summary judgment? All right, let me ask you a quick question. How much does it cost for summary judgment in the county of Mecklenburg? All right, how about Iredell? Gaston County? Are you getting the idea here, folks? You need to know. You need to know. What's the process? What court handles it? Okay? How about the victims of domestic violence? Again, these laws changed dramatically a few years ago. So these victims are well protected, and some of that protection actually lays over onto the landlord. Okay? So what else do we need to know? How about mortgages and deed of trust and how they work? Frazier touched on this a little bit in his presentation. And how do we handle receipts to the state and abandoned property? By the way, tenant security deposit has been abandoned for more than 5 years. Whose is it? It's the state's. It never was yours, correct? It never was yours. It goes to the state. All right. Persons with disabilities. How do you handle ADA? And let's don't forget, too, folks, the concept of damages to the property, which brings us to the end of my presentation. So I hope that you have learned a little bit about, number one, what is a real estate manager by definition of commission rules? How are we supposed to handle monies that don't belong to us? And third, I hope I scared you a little bit with the last 5 slides to show you how much you really need to study in order to be a good property manager. I believe Ms. Debbie Wey is next.
Okay, so my portion of the presentation, I'm going to tell you how you can list, lease, purchase and rental listings in the MLS without breaking the CMLS rules. I'll address lease purchase listings first. Listings that are for sale with lease purchase as a financing option can be listed under the appropriate property categories such as single family or condo townhouse. They should not be listed under rentals unless they are also available for lease only. When you input the listing, the proposed financing field provides the choice lease purchase. And you can see that right there highlighted in red. If you are representing a buyer interested in lease purchase listings, you can search for lease purchase listings by selecting lease purchase under the proposed financing field on the quick search screen of Tempo. And this is what it looks like. And the proposed financing field is, you'll have to scroll down the screen, but it's at the very bottom. And right here it is. You just click on lease purchase, and then you would click search, and then that's how you're able to pull up the lease purchase listings in Tempo. Next, status updates. If you have a status update for a lease purchase listing, so once it goes under contract and you've got your rental agreement in place and also your offered purchase and contract agreement in place, or however you do that, then at that point you do need to update the status of the listing. And when a lease purchase listing goes under contract, you update the status of the listing to pending. The listing must stay in pending status until the property is sold. That's what we advise all of our members to do. And to cut down on the calls and inquiries from other agents with the listing being out there as pending, some agents do include a statement in the remarks explaining that the listing is a lease purchase listing, that the property is currently being leased. So that might help cut down on some of the calls that you get. Now, I know a lot of you guys are asking, what do I do if I get that 60-day email that CMLS sends out when a listing stays in pending status for too long? Anybody ever get that email? There are a few people. Don't worry about it. Listing agents with listings that are legitimately stuck in pending status for more than 60 days, such as a lease purchase listing, can ignore that 60-day email. And you do not need to reply to the email. Once the property is sold, then you update the status of the listing to sold. You will choose one of the options provided in the terms of sale field, which is where you choose the type of loan that was used for the sale, such as conventional, FHA, owner financing, or you could choose one of those other choices. But you will fill that information out. And I'm also going to talk about offers of cooperation and compensation on lease purchase listings in just a few minutes after I talk about the rental listings first. So I'm going to talk about compensation altogether. The rules for rental listings, the first rule that we have is that rental listings are a completely optional property category. So CMLS does not require you to list your rental listings in the MLS. Most people want to list their rental listings in the MLS though, right? You may as well, you're paying for it. One of the most important rules that we have, and this really applies to all listings in the MLS, all rental listings must be subject to a written agency agreement between a landlord and real estate broker to procure tenants or receive rents for the landlord's property, which makes it possible for the listing brokerage to offer cooperation and compensation to other member participants of the MLS. So all listings in the MLS, including rental listings, have to be subject to a written agency agreement. The rentals property category has been around for a long time. It predates both me and Steve being at the MLS. And we've always had a problem with subscribers inputting rental listings as a favor for a friend or a past client and not having that written agency agreement in place. So we know that there's an issue with that. The other problem that we've had with rental listings is that the members don't always offer compensation with those properties, and that's something that we do proactively monitor for from time to time, but you do have to remember that you do have to offer compensation on every listing that's in CMLS. Interestingly, the rentals property category is the only property category that we have that does allow duplicate listings, and there's a reason for that. If you have a